right, we're here at my tiny traveling worm bin, and it has been 22 days since we were in here last, and that is probably why they have eaten through the top paper that we had on here. I'm pretty sure we put that on fresh, and there's literally just these edges left, so clearly they were wanting some carbon, and I think I'll try to remember to put this in the feeding zone. Now, the last time we were in here, we gave them a pretty cool feeding. It was a tiny eggplant that was split from my garden, and we put it right here in the center. We're going to try and look for that. We're also going to try a new way to feed them that I've tried, I think, maybe a long time ago, but we are going to do that. And then I also have a special feeding combined with a trip that we did. And as I dig down, the material feels pretty moist, and the worms are certainly right in here where we had it. And there's some coffee that is still left, and it's kind of the bigger chunks of coffee that we had in there. And let's just kind of dig underneath and see if we can get right to that eggplant. Now with 22 days, it may be mostly gone, and maybe all that'll be there is the stem, but right now I am not seeing it at all. So maybe I didn't grab it, but we also put in a banana peel, some Brussels sprouts, a cucumber slice, broccoli stem, piece of an onion kind of near the root, some strawberry tops, and tomato pieces for color. And of course, we sprinkled in our amendments, and we also put some wiggle brew on it that we sprayed in there. And I'm really surprised that I'm not finding any food here, no matter where I go. There's got to be some of that onion, I would think. That is typically a long-term food. Now, we started with 1,000 worms in here, and they may be pretty hungry for any food I have in here. I'm still seeing shredded cardboard, and it's been going for about 123 days. So I think usually we harvest this bin at about the 170 day mark. So we're talking maybe a couple more months with this. But right in here, I am not seeing that food at all, which makes sense why we saw so much of that top covering eaten through. They're just kind of hungry worms in here. So I think I need to be feeding them a little bit more, and certainly I need to get in here quicker. I really thought that we would see some of that eggplant. I thought it was going to be more of a long-term food, and certainly that stem that was attached to it. And you know what? I just grabbed something. This right here, I think, is part of the eggplant. And right here is some of the purplish skin, and right here as well. And here's some of the fibrousness of the stem where it attaches, and maybe we can try and find that. That was right here. You know what? Here it is. I think this is it. So after 22 days, they did a really good job on this. There's a nice looking worm right there. All right, let's go ahead and dig through and see how they're doing on the edges. And yep, I'm seeing kind of uniform worms all throughout. So that means they kind of annihilated the food, and now they're just kind of equally going through the rest of the bin and eating what they can. And what we're going to try this time is we're going to do kind of a ping pong feeding. We're going to feed on one side, and then next time we check in, we're going to come over and feed on the other side and see if we can get some worm traffic back and forth. And I may, as we increase in the months, I may kind of do like a little bit of a forage and let them kind of eat everything down and then feed on one side and see if I can get most of the worms over here. Because as you know, if you've seen any of my videos for this bin, we typically will count them out. And I think I'm retired from that. Last time it took forever, but we counted, I forget what the count was. It was like 1,052 or something like that. And I think my worm counting days are over for that high. So what I'm going to try and do is get them all on one side and then weigh them out. Things are looking really good. We still have a lot of these cardboard shreds left, but again, that's to be expected with how much we feed them cardboard and how long it's been. Now, in between this feeding and the last one, we went up to the Blue Ridge Mountains in Georgia, and we took a trip through Florida. We did a road trip. Of course, we stopped at a Buc-ee's, and kind of throughout the trip, I just saved everything that I could that was edible for the worms, like napkins and coffee filters and paper towel rolls or toilet paper rolls. And that's kind of the thing that I've been trying to do as we go on our trips, is save some of that and see if I can dispose of it in the worm bin. Now, we had 8 people, so there was a lot more of that than I can feed in this worm bin, but we are going to give it a try and see what we did there. So let me go ahead and push everything to one side, and we'll start our ping ponging on my right side. I guess it's your left side. And one of the things we did when we were up there is we went on some hikes, and we got to see why they call it the Blue Ridge Mountains, because as you are hiking and you kind of look over in the horizon, they're almost like foggy or smoky, which I think they're called the Smoky Mountains too, but they have actually a blue ridge, so pretty good, reasonable name for them. And the sunsets they produce are absolutely beautiful. Now, here is some of the food that we actually saved up, and of course we stopped at Buc-ee's and got some peanut butter blast, which is almost like a trail mix. I'm just going to kind of dump this out and we'll see what we have. So, yep, we had some strawberries. We ate most of our meals indoors, so we shopped for all our groceries. And I don't usually have coffee filters, but this time it had a coffee filter and we used that. And there we go. We're going to put a coffee filter in our bin, which we usually don't do. Usually I have the single serving Keurig cups, and it looks like we've got another coffee filter and we've got some strawberries that we had in here. Now, I did freeze all this so it would last longer instead of putting it right in. Now, you can certainly do that as you're using it. Just throw it in your worm bin, but I didn't always have time, and I think in here, yep, in here is some baked potatoes, or the remnants of what we didn't eat out of the baked potatoes. So this is a pretty good feeding, along with some paper and bedding and strawberries and coffee. So it'll be interesting to see what they make of this. I think when we come back in here, we're going to see a lot of this left. So we'll do that just like that. And then look at that. I actually remembered to get the top newspaper that we had on top. And then here's a little baggie of some unique stuff. We had some apple cider. So we had some molten, what is it called? Mulling spices. And then we put some cinnamon in that apple cider that we were boiling. So we'll put that in there as well. And then we have some egg shells that we're going to put in. And here's the mulling spice. So I'm just going to kind of rip it open and sprinkle it in there just like that. And let's do something special with these eggs. We're going to take them and we are going to turn them into grit. 1, 2, 3. So let's take some of that eggshell grit and we're going to spread it on top, and the worms use it in their gizzards to make the food smaller. And then we already have enough coffee in there, which is what I usually put on next. But what we're going to do is we're going to put in a little bit of worm chow. So we'll go ahead and bury this up. And besides the hikes and the beautiful sunsets and learning why they call them the Blue Ridge Mountain, the other thing that we did was we went to Expedition Bigfoot. It's the Sasquatch Museum right there. And if you go anywhere near the Blue Ridge Mountains, you just have to stop at this cute museum. They make you feel like you are in like a national park area, and they have all kinds of stuff to prove that there is a Bigfoot, and we just had a blast with that. So go ahead and check that out too if you happen to go to the Blue Ridge Mountains. So we'll go ahead and bring back another piece of newspaper, and hopefully I'll get in here soon enough so that it's not so long that they eat it all. And again, I'm just going to kind of feel the edges, and the bin is doing great. It's dry, which is why I don't see worms coming up into the sides and maybe up into the lid, because if it does get wet, then the worms kind of use that as a super highway. I knew I was going to forget something. This is future me from 2 days in the future. I forgot to add some awesome leaves that we picked up on our hike. So let's put those in there. I don't want to dig up our feeding zone, but check out these awesome leaves that I found on the ground as we were hiking. I think I'll just put those there like that, and maybe next time we're in here, I will dig them up. So let's go ahead and put that paper and worm back on. Just like that. There's the worm. So let's go back to present me, which is past me for me, but not for you. And then we'll pop on the bubble wrap plastic here, and I'm going to keep this going. The bin hasn't gotten so moist that I'm worried about it, but maybe in a couple weeks, we will take the plastic off and let the castings kind of dry out, because when you first start a worm bin, it's really difficult to keep it moist enough. And then as the worms produce more and more castings, it becomes almost super saturated because the castings hold the moisture so well. So you got to kind of think about, how am I going to get this to the point where I can use the castings, or I can sift them, or do what I want to do with them when I harvest. So I hope this shows you that you can have a worm bin anywhere and even bring it with you. As you make paper waste and food scrap waste, you can just put it right in your worm bin. So I hope you're having a great day. I hope your worm bins are doing well. So happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.